the message. There, now we have 5 people.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Transit Tuesday Talk, our Rural Transit Edition. True is pleased to host a monthly series of conversations, bringing transit leaders and decision makers together with riders, advocates, allies, and others to really broaden understanding of what the critical transit issues are across the Metro Detroit region, what exciting opportunities there are for improvement, what hurdles we're working to get over, um, and generally to broaden the dialogue about what's happening, because we know there's a lot going on in the transit community. And this event is going to be a great one. All too often, transit focuses on the big city, on the rapid transit, the densest areas. We know, while most conducive to transit for a lot of people, aren't the only areas that have transit needs. We know the entire part, all of Southeast Michigan, every community, there are people who have needs to get around. Everyone has needs to get to work or to school, to volunteer, to go to church or synagogue or mosque, to grocery shop or visit friends or family. Everyone has places that they need to go, but not everybody drives. And while friends and family are able to help in many circumstances, we all know that having a robust set of public transportation options is critical for every community. So this time we're really excited to focus in on our rural transit and rural transit, our community partners that reach some of the broader reaches of the region that don't necessarily get as much attention, but provide vitally important transit services to different parts of our community. So my name's Megan Owens. I'm the director of Transportation Riders United. True has been working for 20 years on ways to get more and better public transit service throughout the greater Detroit region. We believe everyone should have mobility. Everyone should be able to get around whether or not they drive. So we are pleased to work through education, mobilization, community engagement, advocacy, to fight for the best possible transit options for the people across our region. We're joined today. Deb Freer is True's assistant director. Claire Nowak-Boyd is also on the True team, handling any number of different jobs from administration and outreach to social media and anything else I throw at her. So they are both here today to help manage things from the True team. And we have an excellent set of panelists here as well. We are going to have Eli Cooper speak with us. He is the transit manager for Oakland County, a new role developed just over the last year since the transit ballot measure, countywide ballot measure was passed. Eli has extraordinary experience having juggled the municipals and transit balance from Ann Arbor for quite a number of years. Thought he was going to retire, but we dragged him back to help expand transit throughout all of Oakland County. Julia Roberts had spent several years as executive director of the Washtenaw Area Value Express, known as, or Western-Washtenaw Value Express. I'm sorry, you corrected the title for us, and I still put it in wrong. So apologies there.
Wave is perfectly fine.
Wave, yes. We love calling it Wave's a much easier name, but they provide some great transit and mobility services throughout Western-Washtenaw County, which we think of Washtenaw, we think of Ann Arbor, but there's a lot of very rural communities as well. And she has recently 6 months ago. How long have you been there at RTA, Julia?
4 months.
4 months.
Almost.
All right. She's now handling very exciting opportunities of planning and innovation for the Regional Transit Authority and working all across the 4-county region. So we're going to ask her to wear a little bit of 2 hats, share experience from both of those. Lynn Gromaski has been with North Oakland Transit Authority. Now, you were the founder, right? Did you help create it?
I did not, but I've been with them for 22 years. So it actually started almost the whole time. It's been
okay. So not quite the founder, but has now decades of experience serving the communities in Northeast Oakland County and is expanding that critical service into more communities. And then we will be joined a little bit later by Jeff White, who is chief of the Richmond Lennox EMS, which interestingly enough provides paratransit and rural transit services in northern Macomb County, the northeast Macomb of the Richmond and Lennox township areas. And it'll be great to he'll be joining us a little bit later and can share a little bit about how that service was developed and the role that they have. We didn't think we were going to be able to make schedules work, but we also have Kim Viner from WOTA has joined. You know what? We weren't able to make schedules work to have her make a full presentation as well. But if you are interested, Kim, in adding any of your perspective in from West Oakland, the Western Oakland Transit Authority, we are pleased to have that you were able to make the scheduling work as well. So I want to provide just a couple of brief updates from TRU's perspective, and then we will jump into the presentations. Let's see if it's going to let me. All right, so there are a ton of different things happening in the public transit realm. TRU can't be involved in everything we would love to be involved in, but there's a couple of areas that we are especially focused on this year that I wanted to make sure to spotlight. One, of course, is restoring bus service reliability by fighting for more competitive driver pay and better contracts. As many people know, SMART and DDOT have both been struggling. They've been more than 100 drivers short out of the 400 or 500 drivers that they need for, well, pretty much since the pandemic. And while most areas of the pandemic have either bounced back or come to some new livable normal, there's still a huge no-show bus crisis. We developed a report helping people understand the magnitude and some comparisons about that. So we'll share in the chat our Save Our Service report or a link to the website where you can find information about it. And we are continuing to push. I spoke at Mayor Duggan's community meeting just last night about the importance. Dozens of people spoke out about the need to ensure that we can have sufficient driver pay so we can have the service that we need. So that continues to be an ongoing campaign that we are pushing for, although hopefully we'll see some great progress very soon. We also have been working for quite a while to restore state investment in local transit. We know providing public transit is very expensive, and that at one point in time, the state of Michigan actually covered half the costs of running local bus service through the gas tax and other state investments. But over the last 20 years or so, that funding has been decreasing as demand has been growing and expenses have been growing. So the state's now funding less than 30% of the costs of running local bus service. We've got some very passionate legislators who are excited to try to boost that investment so that we can really expand service. We did win a great boost in transit funding from the state last year. I think it was the highest ever. I haven't been able to confirm that, but a lot of that was one-time money. So we're launching back in and meeting with legislators to see what we can do to boost state funding for transit so that our agencies don't have to be struggling so much just to get the basic services out the door. Also very excited in boosting regional investment in transit. We're talking with legislators about ways to amend the RTA law so that can hopefully get back on the ballot. And we can see about doubling investment in transit across the region. And then there's some exciting conversations happening around rapid transit, whether we might be able to finally get some bus rapid transit on Woodward or elsewhere. We were pleased to support RTA's application, RTA SEMCOG and MDOT's application to the federal government to get some funding for some transit investments there. Those are a snapshot of some of the things that TRU is involved in. I will talk a little bit later about some upcoming events, but I want to make sure folks know the breadth of aspects to public transit issues. And well, we have this whole series of Transit Tuesday talks and have focused past events on downtown transit, on Detroit, on Oakland County expansion, on a number of other important topics. Today, we are going to talk about rural and community transit. So enough from me. At this point, I'd love to invite, Eli to share. Do you want me to pull up your slides? Okay. Yes.
I can try the share screen thing.
Yeah,
see
you
if it
should
works.
be able to share screen. Let me know if there's any difficulties with that. If not, I do have your slides, but it's always easier if you can just manage it yourself.
Okay, let me hit the magic button and can you see my slides?
Hey, yes.
Okay, excellent. Good evening, everyone. And as Megan introduced me earlier, I am the transit manager with Oakland County. I'm the one, and you mentioned 6 months. It's actually been 6 months and a week now.
Okay.
So still kind of new on the job. The millage is new, and I look forward to sharing some thoughts about the rural area with those who have joined us this evening. What I will point out is I know when I look at the other panelists, there are real experts in rural transit planning. So consider me setting the table. And let's go into just a quick slide as to, oh yeah, you all expected to see the stagecoach, right? That's the original rural public transportation. But what I'm going to do is kind of set the stage of a definition of rural. Both mine and maybe the federal government's, talk about transit in a rural environment. So what would you expect to see, what you might not expect to see, and then I'll do a quick overview of where we Oakland County are. As you look at the right of the screen, you see the picture of what's called urbanization. So all the colors that are coming out of the Detroit area, they're sequenced by time as urbanization crawled across our metropolitan region. But as you look at the white areas and each of the rectangles is a township, there's still quite a number of rural communities that are in the SEMCOG region. So what is rural? What are we talking about? Rural spaces really include what we as planners call low density. It's not that there's not buildings, there's not housing, there's not population in the rural areas, but there's a lot more nature going on. So some people say, well, there's not much going on. There are aquifer recharge areas, there are food growing areas. There's a lot of value in the rural spaces. But what's important from the perspective of this conversation this evening is that even in these very low density rural spaces, there are people And as all of us know, there's the morning your car wouldn't start. There's the health issue that crops up and you need to get to a medical facility, but you know it's your right foot, so you can't operate your vehicle. Many in the rural area, because the rural community is well networked, rely on friends and family, but that's not there for everybody. So this is a key policy issue for those of us who are in the transit industry. In addition to the rural spaces, now again, this is about history and evolution, right? People like to get together for commerce, for social action. So there are rural places, smaller villages, larger towns. More modern configurations include adult communities. Why are they in rural spaces? Well, because, you know, older people like to look out over nature, and B, the land is cheaper out there, so it's easier to construct the adult communities out on the urban fringes. Lastly, as I mentioned earlier, there are medical conditions that rural dwellers experience, no different than those of us who might be in a more urban environment. And when you have the rural places, you find that the health services, be they hospitals or clinics, are generally located in what I'm describing as rural places. So that's kind of the history and geography of it. This is another map, not as colorful as the SEMCOG map, but it's more directly relevant to our conversation. Folks are probably familiar with what's called the Rorschach test, and they say, look at the spot. I'm going to ask you to do the inverse. Look at the white. As you look at the white part of the image that's in front of you, you'll see at the upper edge of the image is probably what I'll call the North Oakland County boundary. And there's probably, depending on the size of your screen, about 30%, 25, 30% of the northern tier of this image is all uncolored, which means it's not urban, it's considered rural. Similarly, if you look, let's not look to the east, that's Canada. We're not doing public transit in Canada. We're on the state side. On the left edge of the screen, you can see the light blue, which is the Brighton, Whitmore Lake area. And so if you can understand where Wixom, Novi is, Waterford, that's the edge of the urban area. And between there to the left edge of the screen and the image, those are rural areas. So there's quite a significant amount of rural territory classified currently by the Federal Transit Administration, which has important implications. I'm not going to get into those unless there's some questions and answers, but the majority of our community is in the urbanized categorization, and we do have substantial rural areas. I mentioned in my overview, I was going to address the transit piece of rural transit. So when you look at the array of transportation or public transit services, you can see on the left where it says lower density, shorter trips, you see community services. And I think you'll be hearing a lot of that from the other panelists. As you go to the right, you get through fixed route, which is the SMART service or the AAATA service that many of you may be familiar with. Bus rapid transit, something we aspire to have in Metro Detroit, intercity bus, that's the A2D2. But those are in the urban environments, not really in the rural. The next slide will give you a better understanding of transit as it serves the rural areas. You can notice that ranging from the equivalent of a minivan up through transit vans, minibuses. You see, I put the red strike through on the 40-foot coach because those type of vehicles you're not going to find for all of the obvious reasons. There's not enough travel density. They're too expensive. And I want to tell you what, they'll probably get scratched up by the trees in many of the wooded back roads in northern Oakland County. So the tools that serve our rural spaces and places are generally more familiar as demand response services, demand response equipment that are designed for both the road characteristics, a lot more four-wheel drive vehicles, providing transit services in the rural environment, but also ADA compliant or accessible in order to carry those folks who get that problem where they're not able to drive because they're not able to walk around. So I think that covers a broad view of rural and what types of transit equipment and transit service you might see in the rural areas. I'll quickly cover the Oakland County piece. So part of what supports my office, my ability to be here to speak to you and with you about rural transit is that there was a countywide millage on the ballot last fall. I think everybody might be familiar with it. It was passed, and this year the millage generated about $64 million. The primary use of that funding, if you look at it, is 79% is directly contracted for transit services. That includes the county's commitment to SMART, as well as several operators that serve in our rural environments, two of whom are on the panel here this evening. And that's why I'm trying to keep this at a high level so I leave them all the room they need. I think when we look at what the county's goals and objectives are, the idea of expanding service, the idea of coordinating services, particularly in the rural environment, because the area is immense in terms of geography. And so the coordination is necessary in the event that a trip needs to maneuver from one geography, let's say northeast down to the southwest, whether there's a direct trip or there's a hub and transfer that will occur. This is some of the coordination that we're looking to complete throughout the county. We're also looking at develop a countywide plan longer term. So in the first 6 months or a year, now hats off to Lynn for 22 plus years in NODA. We're a relatively new operation and we're looking out into the future. It's a 10-year millage. And so we're in the process of working with the county board, trying to secure resources in order to create a longer term countywide plan for the rural areas. SMART itself, for those of you who are not aware, has a major planning study underway called the Smarter Mobility Program. Since this is the rural discussion, I won't go into that any further other than to say you can learn about their program on their website. The other piece that's critically important beyond the planning and the coordination and expansion of service in the rural area is we are looking at sustainable types of transportation. So the low zero emission is something, whether you're urban or rural, that's relevant. And the transit-oriented development is really a natural because in the rural places, obviously the density and the diversity and the excitement of the communities becomes a focal point, and that we want to continue to support growth in and around the rural places to assure that we can have efficient and effective service from the rural spaces to serve the rural places. Again, you know, because I'm a planner and planners kind of don't feel like we're fully dressed unless we have a lot of maps. As you look at this information, you'll see SMART in the southeast part of the county. That's somewhere around 35 to 40% of the land area in the county, about 65% of the population. That means that the majority of the land and hundreds of thousands of Oakland County residents live in the rural spaces and rural places. And that's part of what the rest of this panel is going to cover, is how they do moving people around. Our role is to, again, coordinate with them, provide them the resources to expand their services. And we want to make sure that everybody in Oakland County is able to get where they want to go, be they urban or rural. My information's available, and I'd be happy to hang around for questions after. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Eli. That was a great overview, a great concept, understanding of where we're starting from, why these issues are so important, a little taste of at least what's happening across Oakland County. I want to switch pretty quickly to hear from Julia. Unfortunately, I think she has to leave a little bit early. So Julia, if you are able to, oops. Yeah, I would love to have Julia share at least as much as you're able to in the time we have with you.
Yes, great. And I think should be able to share my screen as well. Yes.
You should. Let me know if you have any problems with that. And I did
Okay.
finally deal with some minor Facebook hiccups. So we are also running this live on Facebook. We know people's schedules don't always allow. So
Great. I've saved some time at the end for questions. So if anybody has any, and feel free to raise a hand or put it in the chat and interrupt me, Megan, if someone does as I go along. Nice to meet you all. I'm Julie Roberts. I'm the Planning and Innovation Director for the RTA. And as Megan mentioned, the former Executive Director for WAVE. Actually, Eli and I used to work together in Ann Arbor when I was at the Ann Arbor Area Transportation Authority. And all of our organizations really work really closely together. And I'm now excited to be working with Lynn and others throughout the region. I'm going to give a little bit of an update about our regional master plan update that we're working through and some of the community engagement. But we're really focusing on what I like to call, when I was at WAVE, urban transportation, because we do serve both rural, small urban, and larger urban areas. And so one of the things that I think maybe isn't as familiar for people beyond kind of the 6 key agencies that you saw on the first slide, in addition to the larger bus, rail, bike share systems, we also do a lot of receiving of federal funds that then get passed through to rural and small urban areas. So 5310 is a section that's for enhancing mobility for seniors and people with disabilities, or older adults and people with disabilities. And that's just one of the forms of funding that we pass through. I think we passed through this year about 13 million to primarily rural agencies in the region. So while we do look towards applying for grants for things like bus rapid transit project development, we also want to ensure that some of the more flexible door-to-door, or as I like to call for micro transit, dial a ride with an app type services, that can continue to make it easier for people to travel around and get to where they need to go. Beyond sort of what people think of as the RTA and planning for the regional transit master plan updates, and we do want to help with technical assistance for agencies that we work with and partners in the region, developing kind of the policy and the strategies and the longer term approaches to piloting projects. We're working on a mobility wallet right now towards that can help for both rural in addition to urban areas, so that people can more easily pay for where they would need to go, even if they don't have consistent access to a smartphone. I think we want to make sure there are some kiosks in place that people can access in relatively easy to get to locations. We're also looking at building relationships. So our next phase after this regional transit master plan is something we do every other year. That's a state requirement called the Coordinated Human Services and Public Transportation Plan. And what that means is that transit doesn't just stand in a silo. We work with helping people get to their medical appointments, helping people get to groceries. It's how people get to the vans and the smaller buses just as much as the bigger buses that is important. So that first and last mile connection, those plans are going to help inform the next round of funding in 2 years for primarily rural areas. There are intersections of urban and rural transit too, which is why I kind of have sometimes referred to it as urban transportation, because those two they can't be separated completely. No matter how much people in the past may have tried to draw red lines in the sand. That's not how it works when on an everyday basis for most people. So we really want to build those that coordination with everyone, and the planning is the first piece. So that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about the regional transit master plan update. I did something similar to this while I was at WAVE. Really establishing our goals is how we get toward the future of transit, whether it's, you know, a van or a small shuttle or something that's taking people every day or once a week. You know, we want to expand transit to new places. And I know that Eli and Lynn have been working on that. I know True's been trying to advocate for that, really pushing to help move us in a better direction. And we would like to see that, like today we were in Waterford Township next to Pontiac. And one of the, you know, people don't just want to take the bus from Pontiac to the airport, but they also want to go to some of the townships that are surrounding Waterford and going back and forth to work or to visit family or to, you know, go beyond their normal day-to-day to experience things that they may not be able to reach otherwise. We also have enhancing existing services. So I mentioned passing through funding to rural agencies, and that's to help with getting additional vehicles, sustaining what's already here so we don't lose that, and working in partnership to make sure that it is easier for people to access those services as well. That kind of ties into the developing innovative and adaptable solutions, but sometimes the low tech is just as important. It doesn't have to be super complicated. We're one of the lowest investment regions for transit in the country, for a region of our size, and we want to change that. And a lot of people think that just means for fixed route, and it doesn't. It also means for those rural and small urban or urban areas as well. So those apply to everyone. I mentioned building sustainable partnerships. We want to do that not only with our existing partners, but also other nonprofits like WAVE, and whether it's through whatever needs are for each specific community, like software upgrades, mobility management. We may not be able to fund everyone at once, but what we do notice is when we aren't able to fund there's a larger demand than there are supply of funds. That just shows that there's more potential to grow. And then finally, how do we fund that long term? So what we've been doing so far is going out to communities, both rural and urban, and updating some of our strategies that go with the goals to kind of consolidate. I think we had about 23 strategies before, and now we have 3 strategies per goal that we really want to get feedback on. And I'll talk about our survey in a second. But we've been asking people, what's most important to you? And I would encourage you, if you'd like to put in the chat, what is most important to you? We really take that feedback seriously, and that's going to help us to design the systems moving forward and working with our partners to do that for the future of transit in all its forms. So just to give you an idea of some of the events we've been doing so far, we've gone to back to school events. That was one of the questions we got at the legislative level, is how are we interacting with education, specifically community colleges. And while we have partnered in the past, I think it's something that we see as an opportunity for reaching a really diverse demographic of people, because commuters come from all over the county and the counties, and we have people of different races, different ages, different genders, and that's a really great place for us to interact with folks, as well as, in addition to Oakland and Macomb County's community college, we also met people at Wayne State and kind of the market downtown. There's a lot of commuters that come in from more rural and small urban areas into downtown Detroit and back home. We also had a remote option as well as in person at our Citizens Advisory Committee for anyone who attended that. And then we went to Washtenaw Community College's Welcome Day this month so far. And then just today, as I mentioned, we're at the Oakland County Farmers Market. We're trying to do at least 2 events for each county and really mixing it up. We're unfortunately, a couple of our Wayne County events got canceled due to kind of unforeseen consequences like flooding in Canton, and we were hoping to go to Romulus as well. But we are looking to reschedule those with in areas like Wyandotte or other Wayne County locations that can where we can reach folks that we may not have reached as closely in the past. And if you have other suggestions for places to go, please let us know. If we can't do it in this round, we will definitely incorporate it into the coordinated human services plan coming up. And I see one question in the chat, so or 2, I'll get to that in just a second. I just want to encourage everyone to take our questionnaire. This QR code actually links to our homepage, and I'll have the website in the next slide, rtamichigan.org. It's a 10-question survey, but we're encouraging people, even if it's hard to, maybe you don't have transit in your community currently, or you have transit but it's limited, to please let us know where you'd like to see transit come to you, or how to see it and be better moving forward. Then this is a way for us to find out from you. So we're really just in the beginning phases of engagement right now. We're going to come back in the fall and present to our board and ensure that what we're hearing from the community is reflective of the community, and then deliver a draft plan by the end of this year for any changes that will happen, hopefully moving forward. So with that, be happy to take questions briefly, and this is our main email and my direct work number. So if you would like to get in touch, don't hesitate to reach out. And I see James asked, is the RTA setting aside corridors to develop transit in the future? Yes, so some of these corridors actually connect rural and urban communities, and we want to make sure that there's sort of a neighborhood access and equity focus around getting to these corridors and to and from rural and small urban communities. So as Megan mentioned, we're actually in the process of applying for a Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods grant, which will look at 4 major corridors in the region: Gratiot, Michigan, Washtenaw Avenue in Washtenaw County, and then also project development for BRT on Woodward Avenue. So I hope that answers your question. And then, are there future events planned, Thomas? Yes. We have Mobility Row in Ann Arbor coming up. We were at Rosa Parks Transit Center this afternoon. We'll be at the Ipsy Transit Center for AATA. We'll be posting that. We've been doing sort of pop-up events, so keep an eye on our social media. And they're also on our calendar on our website, which is here on the presentation. And I know I want to give time for Lynn and other folks, but are there any other questions before I hop off? And I will also put, if you email info, that goes to, it includes a member of my team as well. So if they can't answer it, I'm sure they'll get in touch with me, but you can always message or call me as well.
Well, thank you so much, Julia. And we will be hearing more from RTA at our next event when we dig especially into regional transit planning and how all these different plans fit together and work together. So thank you so much, Julia. Julia's got a busy schedule. Any other questions for Julia before we let her hop off to her question about Amtrak expansion? Is that something you guys are involved in at all?
So Amtrak is technically a private company, but it also receives public funding. We don't necessarily oversee Amtrak, but I do know historically there's been questions about, for example, if there were an Ann Arbor to Detroit rail, could that maybe be subsidized with Amtrak passes? But I would say that's a question for the planning, and so please provide your input if that's something you'd like to see. That's probably the extent of how it relates to the RTA. But we can also bring back, I could try to join just as an audience member next month as well. And if there are any other questions then, or maybe we can bring back that answer at that time.
Sounds great. Yeah, these are obviously, in some ways, picking somebody up and giving a ride somewhere seems somewhat simple, and yet the stuff is also interconnected and complex. And we are lucky to have a great team at the RTA figuring out ways to put all the pieces together and to really maximize the opportunities that may come from the federal or state level. So thank you so much, Julia, and we will certainly stay in touch. And whether it's you or Ben or someone else who is joining us next week or next month, we will stay in touch. So thanks so much for joining us.
You too. Thank you all. Have a good night.
And enough of the big pictures, conceptual stuff. Let's get down to how does this stuff run? So I'm gonna ask Lynn to share a little bit about what exactly is NODA. What is it that you guys do? Who are the people you serve, and how are you expanding? Are you able to pull up your slides, or do you want me to do that for you? Aha, she's on it. And you will need to unmute. There you go.
All right. I have to. Is that better? Working?
I think we're all seeing your next slide too. Let's see. You want to hop back and see if, I don't know why it's showing us all everything. I mean,
No. Maybe if I can just go to.
I would say you should be able to do from beginning.
From beginning, right?
That's what you had, right?
I wonder why I'm not very technical on that stuff.
Yeah, I would say if somebody else has a brilliant idea, otherwise we can see it. We can see that's we can see what you're sharing, and that's what's most important.
I don't know.
How do we tell it to stop previewing? I'm not positive.
No, either. Anyways,
That's fine.
Happy to be here. Lynn Gromaski, Executive Director of NODA. Happy to be here to talk about transportation. So NODA began in 2001. It started because 3 communities, Orion, Oxford, and Addison townships, had an underserved population for transit, and that was their seniors and disabled. And so they started NODA because, and they each brought one vehicle to the table, and that's how NODA began. And like we talked before, I joined in 2002. I was their CPA grant writer. That's kind of how I started with NODA, and have been the director now for the last 12 years. So happy to be part of this, and it's so fun to see all the growth that we've seen over these 22 years that I've been with them. NODA has moved around quite a bit. I've had 7 moves in the last 22 years, but we finally purchased our own building in 2019. We're located in Oxford. Here's a picture of our building here. NODA also had a millage of its own since 2012. We had a millage that we just levied for the 3 townships, but now that has been replaced since the Oakland County transit tax started last year. So we are levying our own personal millage. Our service area, this is original service areas on the left here. It shows the 3 townships that we originally served, along with our driving boundaries, which are the line around it. Our previous service area was 376 square miles. Now with our expanded service, We are up to 535 square miles, so it's a large area, which also includes now Brandon Township, Independence, and Springfield. Those townships, we are supplementing service with those local providers. This is the Oakland County transit map that Eli had shown. Again, we see all of the providers that are here, and you can see that Noda's in the green. Voda Kim is with us on the call as well. Voda is in the brown, and OPC is Rochester People's Express. Now I know that SMART is actually looking to provide all of our providers in Oakland County a new dispatch system next year. So that's going to be starting in February of 24. We're very excited about that. That will all be in the same platform. And the idea is that we can work together to hopefully get rides across providers. So if someone starts in the NODA territory and wants to end up in the People's Express territory, the idea is that we can work with this dispatch software and get people across the county, which is really exciting. This is a different urbanized area. We've seen a couple different maps showing the urban area and the non-urban area. I think we've talked about how the white area is a rural area, but that's about 20% or so. And the same on the western side. It seems like those are the areas primarily in the rural area. So for us with WODA and NODA, we do a lot of transportation in those areas across the whole northern part of Oakland County. And NODA and WODA work together on a number of grants applications. I know we've worked with Julia. She's been amazing working with us trying to increase our service and apply for various grant opportunities. But there's challenges in those rural areas, and one of the distance, the distance between stops is really a big issue. There is a higher cost per ride when you have such large distances. Right now, Notice is experiencing like 14.5 miles is our average ride for each trip. And that's going to be expanding because we just started this expansion this summer. So it's relatively new going into those new areas. And now that we're expanding our routes, we're going to see larger distance, which is, higher cost per ride. We're going to have increased vehicle usage costs because that's going to go up, and also longer travel times. And that can be an issue with, especially with the disabled and with people that have health issues if you're on the vehicle for too long. Going from your home to some type of medical, it becomes an issue. Dirt roads are a problem, a challenge, especially in the winter when you have ice, and that can cause poor road conditions and safety issues. And it also can you can have long travel times because of the dirt roads, and it also causes a lot of vehicle damage. So that's another issue. There can be limited access to healthcare and employment. Again, the distance between home and healthcare and employment is going to be larger. And then there's connectivity issues. You don't always have cell towers everywhere. So our communication with our drivers on our two-way phones can be challenging. Sometimes they'll find dead areas, and that can be a problem. And our new dispatch software is going to have a scheduling app. So our riders are going to be able to have, schedule rides and cancel rides on their phone. But if the internet isn't good in the area that they're at, that could be a challenge. There's also limited public transportation options. So you're not going to always find Uber and Lyft up in LE or Groveland or Edison townships. It's pretty difficult to find that. So if you are stuck somewhere, there's not a lot of options. And then limited funding. There's just the cost per ride again is just high, so it's just more expensive than your urban trips. This is NODA's mission, and our mission really is to empower and enhance the lives of the seniors, disabled individuals, and transit-dependent riders by providing compassionate and reliable door-to-door transportation services. And our mission is not just something we keep on paper. It's something that we live by, and it's something that when we hire our drivers, that we really care, that they understand that this is much more than taking someone from point A to point B. This is almost a mission, and you have to have a heart for service. And we really have done a great job of getting an amazing group of drivers that really care. The picture that I have here is one of our riders that we've taken. His name's Tom. he's constantly leaving his prosthetic at places. And so this is a picture of Ron having to go back to pick up his leg and retrieve it and bring it back to him. And he laughs about it. But this picture is actually special to me because this year, Ron, our driver who's standing, actually had to have his leg removed and had a prosthetic put on it. And it was really his experience driving for all these years with NODA and seeing the grit and perseverance that our riders have. It's really made him fight back, and he is now back driving with NODA with his prosthetic. It's really kind of a great story. NODA is very dedicated to fostering independence, assuring access to essential service. And I'm so excited that Oakland County believes in creating a community where mobility is a right and not a privilege. This is just our commitment to service. Who is eligible to ride? You have to be a resident of one of the 6 townships right now. We kind of have soft borders, like Waterford is really Lotus territory. We're taking some people from there if they're going in our area. Oakland Township isn't on this list, but we're taking some people from there as well if they're coming to the Orion Oxford area. So what's been really great is the providers that Oakland County has put together. We're really working together. We really all want the same thing, and that is transit across the county. And it's been really exciting to see that change that we haven't seen, that the borders that we've always run up against are starting to eliminate, and we're starting to get across there. And we have a long way to go. We have a lot of challenges to face, but it's at least a great starting point. And I think there's some great providers that are all working together with that same goal in mind. So other than residency, it's just right now the eligibility requirements are being age 60 or older, having some type of disability or low income. The application process is very easy. You just go to our website, which is ridenoda.org. There's a one-page application. You include your proof of residency. If you have a disability, there's a professional verification form. If you're low income, we just ask you sign a form, just saying that you are low income. We don't require income verification. It's easy to book a ride as well. We just call dispatch. We suggest 2 to 3 days in advance. Again, once we get our dispatch system, it'll be done online. Hopefully, that'll be another option. All of our rides are $2 each trip, and we do prioritize rides for work and for medical, but all rides are allowed. So if you want to go to the mall or out to dinner, that's absolutely something we can do. It's just based on availability. We are currently operating Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. We're operating 23 routes, but planning to expand it to 26 this year. And we're hoping to expand another 15 routes next year. And on our weekends, we're 8 to 4. We have 5 routes currently, working to 6 routes this year, hopefully 10 routes next year. So we're expecting a big increase. What's new? New vehicles. NODA is expecting between 7 and 9 vehicles this year, with an additional 10 next year. The picture that you show is our expanded parking lot in progress. This was a picture taken this week. We're hoping it's going to be done by November so they can lay the asphalt before the snow comes, but it's coming along. But it'll be great. It'll be an expansion of 90,000 square feet. We'll have a fuel center in the back. It'll be able to house our expanded fleet of vehicles. Again, like I said, the expanded service times and routes. Our rides and mileage are definitely going to be increasing. Last year, we gave 41,000 rides and drove 570,000 miles. We're looking this year to be about 50,000 rides and 685,000 miles. And again, next year, it's just going to multiply significantly. Excuse me, we're hiring new drivers and dispatchers with better wages and benefits. So the county really wants all the providers to be offering a higher wage, and then we're offering all the same wage, so we're not competing with each other. So that's been great, and it's really been helping us get drivers. So we've had no problem getting the drivers that we need, which is wonderful. Again, with the expanded driving boundaries and our new townships that we've added since July. In the future, I think the future looks really bright in Oakland County. Again, I'm just so pleased that Oakland County sees that rural transit has has a need and that they're willing to put their time, money, and effort to making it a success. And I feel like they're trying to connect the urban and the rural together, so we're working with SMART, and that we're all working together, I think, is really that recipe for success. We have continued monthly meetings with all the providers and Oakland County, so that we're hitting issues. That what problems are coming up, and how can we make things progress faster? And we really have been putting things on a tight timeline, and it's been good. Again, the new dispatch software is coming up next year. The cross provider trips, like I talked about, as well as new cameras are going to be installed in our vehicles. And the additional new vehicles. And actually, NODA, WODA, and OPC have all received a carbon reduction grant for 2 new EV vehicles. So we're expecting to receive those at some point this year. So it's all just exciting news. Again, I appreciate working with Eli, and the county has been amazing. He is really the right person for the job. And I'm just so proud of the job that he's been doing. And he's great to work with. He's a good balance of trying of making sure that it gets done with the right amount of effort. And I just appreciate that he's here working with us. So that's just kind of our update with NODA. Here's my contact information. I'd be happy to answer questions, or you can contact me if you would like to. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was some great information. And I love the pictures. There's something about the pictures of the people riding that really makes it, I don't know, makes it real. Helps remind us what it's all about. Let me. Well, Deb's checking on Jeff White, and he's supposed to be able to join us and share what's happening in Macomb County. I mean, I know sometimes Oakland County likes to think it's the center of the world, but we did want to hear from our Washtenaw and Macomb County friends as well, if we are able to. But
Actually, we do have some questions for Lynn that I just sent to her.
Okay, great. Actually, I was going to ask if, well, we weren't able to coordinate enough to have a full presentation. I was going to actually see if Kim wants to share anything. I know you had recommended when you had a conflict that you work very closely with Lynn, and a lot of the things that you provide are very similar. But if you are interested, Kim, I'd love to welcome you on to say a little bit about what's happening in Western Oakland.
Hi, Megan. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm sitting in my car waiting to go into another meeting.
Okay.
So I was just glad to be able to get on and catch this. I'm sorry we couldn't coordinate it a little bit better, but we had so much stuff going on in our office that it just didn't happen. Lynn pretty much gave you the good update on everything. In June, Western Oakland Transportation took on Sylvan Lake, Kego Harbor, Lake Angeles, and Orchard Lake. And we also expanded our hours. We used to be 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And now we're 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. We haven't opened up for the weekend yet. That's planned for next year. And then the beginning of September, we took on Holly, the village and township, Groveland, and Rose. And they're still on our old hours until we get familiar with the areas they need to go, because most of them tend to travel outside of Oakland County because it just makes more sense. Their doctors are in Grand Blanc and Fenton and Flint, which is much closer than bringing them back into Novi and those areas. So we're kind of feeling that out. In the little over a week that we've been running in that area, we have more than tripled their ridership from what they used to be doing. So we get more and more applications or registrations every day. We do service elderly 55 and up, and the disabled, low income, and also veterans of any age or any status. So we also have a stop at Bishop Airport, as long as it's within our hours now, if anyone wants to fly out of Bishop. Our application is available at www.ridewoda.org, or you can call us at 248-887-4979. We do have, last year we did over 32,000 rides. This year we're expecting to do over 42,000. Last year we traveled about 380,000 miles, and this year I'm sure it's going to be over 500,000. We also have cameras in all of our vehicles for security reasons. And as Lynn said, we applied for a CRP grant through SEMCOG for a carbon reduction program pilot to see how we could implement EVs into our system and how efficient that they can be as far as providing longer distance travel. We also co-joined in a 5310 grant to supplement us for crossover travels. So that would be including people getting from the NODA area into WODA area and beyond, and WODA people getting into NODA area and beyond. So we are truly working on trying to make this a true countywide transit system that will get literally anyone within the county to anywhere within the county. We are working a little bit with People's Express on the same respect to be able to do crossovers. And let's see, I have some notes down here. We currently have about 23 routes running daily, and we anticipate that to increase by at least 5 or 6 before the end of the year, just in the Holly area alone. Before the year is out, we will extend their hours as well, but we didn't want to jump into it totally all at once. We wanted to get a feel for where they need to go, when they need to go. And prior to us, they ran from 9 to 2. So being able to run from 7 to 4 is a much broader range and will give us a better feel for exactly where they need to go. We also encounter the same pleasurable experiences that NODA does as far as driving on the dirt roads, the roads that are washed out. Ice is a lovely thing in the winter on those back roads. And everything that we do, you know, I like to refer to it as down in suburbia and the cities. Those vehicles go 1 mile and can pick up 10 people along a sidewalk. We go 10 miles to pick up 1 person. And sometimes that 10 miles doesn't even get us to that 1 person's house, but that doesn't make them any less important than the masses down in the cities and suburbia. So we do have a lot more obstacles to work with, but both NODA and WODA have been doing this long enough. WODA actually started in 2020, which was a great year to kick off any new business. But we had been providing transportation in our area for about 40 years through different names, different municipality connections and stuff. But between the two of us, we've pretty much got the area covered up here, and we will, you know, we work together quite well, and we're always looking towards each other to see how we can do something better or be more effective. You know, it doesn't make a lot of sense for WODA to take somebody in Holly all the way down to Troy and lose a driver for a good portion of the day when we can connect part of the way with NODA, who does go to Troy, to be able to connect them the rest of the way. So the software Lynn was talking about will make that very viable for us, because we'll be able to see each other's schedules and be able to put those people in place so that they can get more direct routes and go a little bit further than what they're normally used to. And other than that, you know, we're just happy to be here. The millage was a great thing. Transportation is so underserved out here, and having that millage made a lot of things possible. Not just the expansion, but also more vehicles, a variety of vehicles. We now have minivans and transits and cutaways. So when we're doing these long distance travels of just 1 or 2 people, using the minivan is much more effective than sending out one of those 23-foot crossovers, or not crossovers, cutaways. But you know, it takes a lot of learning, trial and error, and learning to see what works best, how it works best. Setting up connection points will probably be our next phase, and as well as possibly making arrangements with the surrounding counties, because like I said, the Holly people, they go up into Genesee County. So if we can coordinate something with MTA, that will get them even further. If there's a way we can connect with LETS to be able to get people into Livingston, there's some great medical facilities in there. Livingston has a lot of people who really need to come to Oakland for what we offer. So there's a lot of things that could potentially be on the horizon. And we just hope to, you know, provide people with more than what they're expecting. But, you know, it all takes time and effort, and we like to take it slow because we don't want to have to back up. So we'll drop into things as we feel comfortable and we have it all put together, and add on as we go along that way. So I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kim, for squeezing us in between your other meetings. I know we are all busy, but I think that's great to hear just how much you've been expanding and how much you've been growing. And while yes, of course, we all wanted the day after the ballot measure for the service to just snap on, but you really helped us understand why it's important to grow thoughtfully and to understand what the needs and concerns are. And really the fact that it's been less than a year and you guys have already expanded to cover almost the entire county along with the other providers there is pretty impressive. So thank you so much for what you guys do. Can you there was a question about how I think Lynn, you had mentioned routes, how the number of routes that you have on the rural scheduled ride system. Can you help us understand what that means from a service delivery perspective? Those of us who just know the fixed route world.
Routes are confusing. We call them routes, but we're all demand response. So nothing is fixed route in our at NODA currently, other than the trolley. We do have a trolley that we work with the DDAs. It's just on a weekend service, and it's a lot of fun. We get about 500-600 people a month. It's awesome. That's the only fixed route that we run. But yeah, the routes are just a vehicle that's scheduled for a certain time. We just call them routes.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, do you have drivers that cover certain areas more than others, or it all depends on what comes in any given day?
There are some people that we do like certain areas, but majority it's pretty much the whole territory, and it just depends on where they start their day, and then they try to make it make sense as best they can, which I'm looking forward to the dispatch software, because right now it's just the dispatchers trying to make it sense. And I feel like without those algorithms, they're really, it's hard. So we need the new software.
No, that'll be great to have some some technology to let your dispatchers focus more on helping the people and less on mapping out every day. There was another question that came in actually about the trolley, since you mentioned it. Are there any considerations for providing other scheduled or fixed route type services that might relieve the pressure on the excuse me, pardon me, on some of the demand response trips? Has there been consideration of that?
So we can't use the trolley because Oxford DDA actually purchased it. So we house it and we run it, but it's really not our vehicle to run for fixed route trips. But we have scheduled some shopping trips. So we'll do scheduled days for Costco, Great Lakes Crossing, especially for like our senior living places and our mobile home parks, so that we can go and get a group and take them like one day to Costco, one day to Great Lakes Crossing, one day to Myers or Kroger or whatnot. So that's what we've, what we're working out right now. But, possibly in the future, we could potentially do some type of fixed route with a smaller vehicle if it makes sense. That might be something in the future.
Yeah. I don't know if Kim or Eli, you want to add anything to that. What is that sort of, is there, Eli, you showed a nice, that there's this whole continuum of different types of services, and they're not even that cut and dry. So are there thoughts as to how to?
So one of the things I mentioned is we're going to the board looking for resources for a community transit planning study. And I've had experiences in other jurisdictions where there were more spine and feeder systems using the community transit equipment. There's also the potential to run not fixed route, but route deviation services.
Yeah.
Again, it would be not at the scale in a suburban urban place, but once the technology is both available at the dispatch and on the vehicle, there is the potential for, if a trip's underway, if there's another rider that needs to be going in the same direction at the same time. So that could be considered like a route deviation. Lynn mentioned scheduled services. And so People's Express down in the southwest portion of the county does have several what they call variable route scheduled trips for mostly for shopping purposes, and they're able to get the vehicle load significantly higher than the one or two that you might see on a demand response only service. So again, those are all the details that as you're hearing, this is a growth industry, both in miles and territory being served, and that we're hoping as a county to be able to complement the great work that the authorities, NODA, WODA are doing, but also to help pull us forward with a professional consultant that can take a look at our travel patterns, our land uses, and make recommendations for us to implement going forward. Thanks for allowing me the time to elaborate on that a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if there are other questions, I know some of them have been answered in the Q&A or in the chat, but if there are other questions, we would love to hear. The chief from Richmond Lennox EMS has not been able to join us, but I want to share, I don't know that much about their service, but I want to share at least a little bit of what I know, because I think it is really interesting. Again, the agency that operates it is actually out of Lennox Township. It's the Richmond Lennox EMS. The primary job is running wheelchair, or I mean, that is running EMS, ambulance service. But they realized they had so many people that ended up calling the ambulance just to get like to the doctor's office type of thing, that they started working with SMART and providing what they call community transit, wheelchair, and alternative medical transportation. But that's really grown even from there. Don't have an excellent PowerPoint, but I will share at least a snapshot of what they offer. So they do provide door-to-door transit for area residents, not only for medical, but also banking, food, business. They even run a trip to Metro Airport once a day they will run down to Metro Airport and back. So that's a pretty long trip, but that's something that they've found to be enormously useful. So they serve a big swath of northern Oakland County: Armada, Chesterfield, Lenox, Memphis, New Baltimore, New Haven, Ray, Macomb, Richmond. And then the other thing that I thought was interesting and relevant to this conversation, they do have something of a shuttle that goes from New Haven to 23 Mile and Gratiot. So they are smart, and Richmond Lenox are connecting to try to recognize that again, there's something of a blend, and that they have just recently started being able to provide some same day service. They just put this out, that Richmond Lenox and Smart in some of these communities will be able to, there are limits on where they go, but that they are between 8:30 and 4 working to set up same day service. So again, all of these are a bit of a work in progress, and everyone's figuring out what they can do to provide the service that people in these communities need. So as was noted, it's very expensive. It's very difficult and expensive to run service in these areas. So, but I think, as Lynn mentioned, or no, as Kim mentioned, no less essential. So I'd love to ask each of you to tell me a little bit about a passenger. We heard a little bit about the gentleman who left his prosthetic a number of times. That's awesome. But are there other passengers that really come to mind of when you think about the service that you provide? Is somebody that can really be an example of the types of service? I mean, to what extent are people riding the same people riding every day versus occasionally? So yeah, Kim, can you share a little bit about some one or two of your riders?
Sure. Yeah, we have several that are regular riders. We have one gentleman, he is a special needs, and we take him to work. He works at Fox Run. We take him in the afternoon and bring him back in the evening. His mom was absolutely elated when we extended the hours, because she used to have to get out at 9 o'clock and go pick him up. And now he rides us home. So we get him both ways. And he is absolutely in love with one of our drivers. She shares music with him on the vehicle. He came out the other day, and his mom shared this story with us, that he had come out the other day and he was very kind of upset from his work. He didn't have a good day. But as soon as he got on the bus with Judy and they started talking and sharing the music, his persona just completely changed. And by the time he got home, because he texts his mom every time he gets on the bus to let her know he's on his way home. And as soon as he got home, she said, "So how was your day?" And he goes, "It doesn't matter, because I was on the bus with Judy." So
That's wonderful.
And we have, unfortunately, we don't have this couple anymore. They moved away, but I'd like to share a history one. It was an older couple. The gentleman had driven through his garage and ended up on their deck. So his license was taken away, and his wife was totally up in arms because she didn't drive at all. So she called around, and she finally got a hold of us and was like, "I don't know what to do. We have to go to doctor's appointments. We have to do this. And I don't know where to turn to." And I was like, "Well, you called the right place and we can take you." So the first couple times, Ed was a little bit of a curmudgeon. He didn't want to ride transportation. This is way below him and everything else. And after probably about 6 months, he would come out happy as a lark. We were considered the joy bus. She would send him off at times to ride by himself, but she would call and let dispatch know that Ed is riding by himself. So please help him out a little bit. And it was just, it's a very heartwarming. This is a very heartwarming job to know all the people that we can make a difference in their lives.
That is excellent. Yeah, again, ultimately, this is about people. This is about humans in their daily lives. And whether it's on a community transit or a fixed route, the smiles and the joy that people can bring each other. Lynn, any examples that come to mind for you?
If I could share my screen again real quick, I have a quick video that I will enjoy if I can figure out how to do these. So where is it? There. I need help with this. Oh, it's really, really touching too. Let me figure out. I have a media player. I don't know if I.
You're muted, Megan.
Thank you. I was going to say, Lynn, if you're able to share it, great. If you should have screen share, but if you can't, we can always send it around afterwards.
Oh, I'll do. Yes, I'll do that.
Yes. Yeah, send me a link to it.
Okay.
And we'll make sure to share it around afterwards. But are there any people that come to mind that you want to tell us a little bit about?
There's just a lady that she actually was in a concentration camp as growing up, and she's just so funny, and she's always flirting with the drivers, and it just makes her day. She's just the drivers all love her. She comes in, she's got little names for all of them, and it's just heartwarming. There's also our special needs boys that the drivers come, and they actually have little goodies for him every time he gets on, and it brightens their day, and it's just so heartwarming. Like Kim said, this is just the best job in the world. I mean, it's just constant. You just feel just so loved and by everybody, because they know that they just appreciate the service. Wonderful.
That's great. That's great. And as was noted, the fact that you guys finally have some additional resources to expand and to be able to connect to serve more people and get them where they need to go. I know that at a Oakland County meeting, I was talking with Kim. She mentioned just how much the demand has been growing. And people are just constantly excited to find out that there's an option. And as you noted, your numbers are growing as well. Well, we are going to wrap. Oh, go ahead.
I did find it if you want to watch it.
Oh,
quick.
sure.
I think it's a 1 minute thing. Let's see if I can.
Oh, gotta hide us. Oh, okay.
Working?
Go. You're good. Can you guys hear? I don't know if we've got sound.
Oh, okay.
No
sound. Okay, I'll have to send it separate then. All right.
Okay.
Sorry about that. All right.
That's great. But that's actually a great reminder. We at True are going to be doing expanding our series of transit impact stories that we've been doing online into videos, because you're right, there's nothing quite like a video to share the real human touch. Well, as we wrap up, well, I guess it looks like both Julia and Kim had to go, and Jeff wasn't able to join us. But so I guess Lynn and Eli, it's up to you guys. What sort of final remarks? What would you like people across the region to understand about transit in your community, and where it's going? Where are things going from here? Lynn, do you want to share any final remarks before we have to close up?
Sure. Like I said, I'm just excited that to be a partner and part of this. This has been a dream of mine, to be able to break down these borders and these barriers and actually work together so that we can actually get these people where they need to go. It's really exciting. And it's great to work with you, Eli, too, in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. And likewise, I mean, the role that I serve with the county is made so much easier because we have the passionate local providers that we have. I think in terms of, final words, I started off at a high level in terms of rural spaces and places. And it's interesting to note when you start to look at what we call the gray tsunami, the folks in the rural spaces and places are getting more dependent and older, as are the urban and suburban residents. So these needs are growing. They're growing dramatically. And it's with the good graces of the voters and the resources that we have in Oakland County. And I would hope that others can learn from the success of our investments to see how they really help uplift people and communities, and that this rural story continues to be told because it's quite a story to share. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you and the folks who are participating in this webinar. Again, my contact information, anybody can call me at any time, and I'd be happy to have a conversation about public transportation, rural transportation. It's what I do now. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much, both for what you do and for joining us. I will share just a couple of sort of closing thoughts myself. I want to make sure to let folks know that this is one in a long series. So long, we've been doing this all year though. And it's been great. We've gotten some really positive feedback, both from people. Some of the Transit Tuesdays we're doing in person, some of them, well, in person and hybrid. Some of them are purely virtual like this one. We make sure we've got live tweets of these sharing, echoing out the information through that network. These are always recorded, shared on Facebook as well. So we work to get this great information out as broadly as we can. So and we do have upcoming events. If you want to get more involved in TRU and all of the efforts that we're making to improve and expand transit, we have a volunteer team that meets monthly online and talks about different ways people can get involved in all sorts of different avenues of transit advocacy. Our next Transit Tuesday talk, as I mentioned, is going to be on regional planning, October 24th. We're going to pack in a whole lot of information. We're still putting a few final touches on, but we're going to be in Dearborn and on Zoom. So whichever way works best for you. I believe we're going to have RTA and SMART and SEMCOG all talk about the regional planning efforts that they have underway. And they definitely, as Julia noted, want to hear your thoughts as well. So that should be a really great event. Again, our volunteer team is every month, and our November Transit Tuesday talk is going to focus in on state policy. There's a lot happening at the state, whether it's seeing if we can amend the RTA legislation, figuring out ways to ensure that the climate crisis is considered in transportation planning, helping shape the next budget that's coming up in not too long. So that event should be a great one, November 14th. And for everyone in the transit and TRU community, we're having a holiday party. Stay tuned for details on that to come get together in person in Detroit to celebrate the progress of the year and the people who've done amazing things throughout the year. And we're still firming up the final date, but every January is the State of Transit, and that's TRU's annual meeting, and it will be a great opportunity to find out what's happening on from all sorts of different transit providers and all sorts of different ways to get involved. So again, thank you everyone for joining us today, whether you're live or following up virtually. Yeah, we will definitely look forward to hearing from folks at future events. So on behalf of True, our staff team, a huge thank you to our presenters today for all the amazing work that you guys do. A huge thank you to all of the True members, everybody who contributes to make our work possible, and everyone fighting for more and better transit options in whatever way you can. So thanks so much and have a wonderful night.